Hello, welcome once again to C9K, where we talk about all things Kubernetes, security, the culture, the money. And my name is Steve Jaguar.
And I'm his co-host, Mike Foster, and we have a packed show. Orca is suing Wiz. There's a bunch of chaos in the open source community that we want to talk about. And Savvy raises 30 million. Welcome to the show.
There we go. Now I'm enclosed in all the C9K goodness. I feel like it was that missing at the beginning.
Yeah, it was.
All feels right with the world.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what threw me off when we started. I was like, welcome to, where's the banner? All right. First thing is first, full disclosure, if you're watching this 3 o'clock on Friday or 10 a.m. Eastern time, we recorded this earlier because neither of us could be here. So advice from StreamYard when I set this up was, if you're doing this, tell people who are viewing that it's not exactly live. So pseudo live, so you know.
I'll still be commenting and, nitpicking all the dumb things that I say. But yes, 10 a.m., 3 p.m. GMT on Fridays, and we'll be back again in 2 weeks. That's what we have planned for the next show. So be there. Until then, we have a packed show. There's a bunch of drama in the open source community, like I said, some lawsuits, a bunch of money getting thrown around. Before we get started in the general news, did you have any updates, anything that you have coming up? I know you're going to Black Hat, I believe, in August, right?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've got B-Sides Las Vegas for the first day. I've got Black Hat for 2 days, and then Hop, Skip, and a Jump, which in Vegas takes about 200,000 steps to Caesar's Forum for DEF CON. So I'm going to be at all of them. Come find me.
That'll be fun. Hopefully everybody can take it easy on you. You're getting, the hangovers get worse in Vegas. A lot of dry heat, just get some water in you.
Dry heaves, yeah.
All right. I think we have some supply chain security wing lang as well coming up. Let's get into the news.
All right, let's bring it up.
Starting off with one of the Winglang? Okay, because we did have a supply chain security.
I'll be second. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Anyways, kick it off. You're the one that found this.
Yeah, well, so I met a couple of founders, Alad and Saba, who were talking to me about Winglang, mainly because it generates infrastructure as code. So it's like a partnership kind of conversation, right? Mm-hmm. And they gave me a little demo of it, and it kind of blew my mind because I have long been controversial about Pulumi, because Pulumi is kind of anti-declarative. It's like you can write code in TypeScript, or you can write code in Python or something, and it will provision your cloud. And I'm always like, yeah, but the cool thing about declarative is that you can check it to make sure it's more reliable, because declarative, you're not running proper SAST. You can run checkout or whatever it is you want to do to make sure that you're not going to deploy something stupid. And they're doing kind of the same thing, except their intermediary isn't a unique intermediary like what happens with Pulumi. They generate Terraform or CloudFormation, and you can write your code in the same language. So it's an all-in-one, write your code, and as you create, and there's a really, let me just see it. There's their animation, I think I've gone too far, was quite good at just trying to figure out what it does. Here we go. So let's just leave that up. You're saying cloud is import, and then you create a new bucket. And in the play environment, which is, it shows you visually what you've done.
Oh, wow.
So it's showing you a visual of what you're building as you're building it. and it auto generates like IAM policy and network policy. Like you don't have to do that because it creates least privilege connectivity between your code and your resources automatically.
And so locally, you're seeing all those resources pop up. Like this looks like Visual Studio Code. So you're creating this all in one file saying, hey, give me these resources. It's simulating it, showing you the visualization, and also creating the files that are necessary to actually execute it.
You got it. And then it deploys the Terraform and then serverless functions and all of this. It's very new. I saw some comments asking for like step functions and just like some of the detail that isn't quite there yet. But I love the philosophy of it. It's super cool because a lot of the things that from a security perspective you screw up are being generated by the compiler. So it's actually pretty secure. Like there's been some interim checks on some of the generated Terraform, and it passes a lot of the security checks. Like it's good. It's good quality infrastructure as code. It gets created. So I just thought, one to watch. I like it. It's cool.
And then we were checking it out before the show, and there's a big banner across the top of the page, I think. Too, right?
Well, I thought incredibly subtle banner way up here. Wing Cloud raises 20 million seed. So when I first ran into them, which was 2 weeks ago, they were like, oh, I said, okay, this is cool. Like maybe we can work together. And they said, yeah, not next week. I'm like, all right, why? You go, oh, we got this press thing. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah, pretty big press thing. And that's just in seed funding. That's awesome. Good for them.
That's pretty hot. So anyway, there we go. Go check it out and take a tour, whatever. I'm sure it's all open source as well. See, go star them, 1.3K. That number has gone up since I last saw. I think it was less than 1K before. All right, cool. Obviously making a bit of a splash.
Very, very cool.
There we go. It's not like strictly security because they don't think there's security. But when I saw it, I thought you kind of are because you're generating all the security stuff and you're doing a good job of it.
Yeah, no kidding. And the next one is, well, speaking of security, more supply chain security, but this is an intro. I think you found this one.
Well, I was hesitant as to whether I was going to put this in the show because software supply chain security and introduction. And I'm like reading through going, okay, it's starting off with some of the obvious SolarWinds, Log4Shell, blah, 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 going through. But then I kind of went through and it's got some good stats. I thought, we live in a bubble, and every now and then I feel it's good to throw in something that just says, all right, I think I'm doing supply chain security every day. Why not throw a bone to the people who are like, wait, where's a good starting point just to get my head around why I care about this? Read the article, thought it was pretty good. Thought, all right. By the way, once again, all the links are down in the description. So if you want to click it and give it a read, and you're thinking, you know what, I've been focusing on one particular part of security. What do I do to get started? This is actually pretty good. So credit to Vishal for writing that.
This is one of those articles that you send to your parents or aunt or uncle when they ping you about like, why is this coming up? I've been pinged about AI so many times, being like, what should I read? Or is there a course I can take to get good at being a prompt engineer? One of those things. Yeah, that was definitely an article that summarizes it very succinctly, gives some real life use cases. So I read through it. And, I mean, nothing new to us, but definitely if you want some preliminary understanding, it's a good resource to start off with.
Nice.
And
all right, next
so
up.
we had a couple, we talked about this topic a couple of times. The AWS article where I think it was for Prime Video, they had too many microservices, and let me bring that up. They had too many microservices and they wanted to shrink their footprint. I forget exactly what it was.
Oh, it was insane. They were using all sorts of serverless functions with S3 bucket intermediaries to move Prime Video around. Like it was bonkers. Like anybody, not anyone, but I mean, you look at the design and you go, it's like there's microservice and then there's microserverless, right? Where there's all these ephemeral functions flying, shoot, and really Prime Video is like a data processing like behemoth to make sure it can manage all of this. Maybe that's not the answer. But then Newstack followed up and said, all of this crazy furor that got created about them not using microservices and going back to monolith didn't actually happen. and the resulting architecture is not monolith. So all of you who are really upset, it's okay. Go read this because it's not short.
Yeah, I remember this one article that was written, got so much, there's so many talking points from it. It was getting brought up with like .NET apps, bigger apps that have been around for a super long time as like here, you don't need to go to microservices. Always with a question mark, being like, are microservices dead? Is this going away? Any title that has a question mark associated with it is not true. Because if you could prove it, you'd state it in the title, right? And you
instant hot take.
Yeah. I know it's 100% true. Anything with a question mark, I assume it's not a proven point because otherwise you would just state your point. Anyways, so
I like it.
They broke it down in this article and they say it's mostly like the step functions or the individual functions that were created in Amazon. It's a return back to microservices. They were too disparate in all of their functions and processes that were being done, and so it was costing them way too much money. But that doesn't mean that containers or microservices are getting kicked out in any way.
Right. Awesome. So, and go to read. Nice summary. Okay, moving swiftly onward. Well, we didn't even mention what our tool time was, did we? We'll keep it in suspense then. We've got China's hacking everything. You had an article in here and I replaced it because there are no adverts on this one. It's a BBC article.
Okay. Yeah. So
accused of hacking.
Did you read this article?
You sound like you had a take.
Oh, it's not really a take, just the fact that China's able to replicate tokens, make it seem like they're an existing user, and then get access into email systems. The government was notified of this. This probably could be a WTF take. I just thought the funniest comment was when they asked the Chinese embassy in the UK for comment, and they just said, yeah, this coming from the US, the #1 hacking agency in the world. Like, we don't believe them. Yeah. That's biggest awesome. Global cyber thief. It's like the Spider-Man meme. Just the two countries pointing at each other. I thought that was a pretty funny one.
Well, all right, excellent. And then we have one more.
Yes. So this is one, that popped up. If any of you have a Mac or iPhone, you should have seen a security update that came across your screen the last 2 weeks. That was because of this. And specifically, there was a security patch, and they called it out. I don't know if the new iOSs say, like, this is a security patch. Do it quickly. WebKit bug. Yeah, it was found.
Which I like it. It was code execution via web content. That's super cool. I mean, I don't have a breakdown of how that worked. Probably for the best. Though, was it a person aware of a report that this issue may have been actively exploited? So, if you updated, yes, but also check the update because they updated and it turned out they needed to update again. So then there was a B, and then they needed to update again. So there was a C. So even if you think you updated, go check because there was a whole A, B, and C kerfuffle that happened on there where it was like not quite, and okay, definitely we got it this time.
Yeah, I remember when Macs were first around, the big push was there's no security issues, there's no things that we have to worry about, and they have had over 10 0 days this year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no comparison towards other systems, but it's just becoming more popular. More things going to happen.
That's true.
All right. We got a hot take of the week brought to you by yours truly, Steve Scare. Let's get spicy.
Oh, you're gone. Oh my God. All right. Here's my hot take. And I was looking at the OWASP recently, let's say ratified OWASP Top 10 for API security. And I thought, why do we have this? I don't quite understand why we have. Then it occurred to me, how many OWASP Top 10s are there? And I don't know if anybody could answer that. In the end, because I found it so difficult to find them all, go into the OWASP website, because when you land there, it's easy to find the top 10, but from there to find the other top 10s, I had to go ask ChatGPT, please list all of the top 10 projects under the OWASP banner, and it gave me all of them. And even it missed the Kubernetes top 10, because there is a IoT top 10, there's an API top 10, there's a serverless top 10, there is the CI/CD top 10, there's the API one, and now it's probably another one that I'm forgetting, Kubernetes, etc. There's so many of them. And when you go look at some of the problems with them, and if I were to pick on the IoT top 10, use of insecure or outdated components. Well, that's also on the normal OWASP top 10. And then I started to think, like, why are there so many top 10s? If this really is the open, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, the OWASP used to stand for Open Web Application Security Project, and now it stands for Worldwide Application Security Project. I don't know when that changed, but it's interesting that there is a top 10, and if all of these top 10s were so good, they would then contribute to the top 10, and then once again, there would only be one top 10. I think some of them have merit on their own, but there's a lot of top 10s that are coming out of the woodwork. To me, hot take number 2, other than we don't need them all, is that some of them are just marketing efforts. Because if you've got a top 10 and there's no 11, like you just crafted 10 in order to create it, to raise awareness of the thing you want to have a top 10 about, is it really a top 10? Or is it just, I don't know, a marketing effort? So my hot take is that please stop making new top 10s for the OWASP, and maybe we need to expand the top 10 to a top 20 if we can't fit everything in. So we can't represent IoT, we can't represent API, we can't represent Kubernetes directly. But I think we need to kind of take a step back and rein in our top 10ing within the OWASP world. There we go. Hot take over.
Yes, on to the WTF. Great take.
Thanks.
It's a good point. I mean, you look at the MITRE framework. You look at the MITRE framework having all of the ways that you can get hacked. Like, they don't limit it. They don't say here's 42, and then we're going to stop there. Right?
Yeah. I think yes. I don't know what's going on there, but it seems like it's getting out of control. All right. Speaking of out of control,
lawsuits.
What's our first lawsuits? Yeah, we didn't know where to put this, whether it was going to go into WTF or Big Spender.
Yes,
but Orca are suing Wiz for patent infringement on their cloud security unicorn showdown.
Let's go.
These two companies are bonkers. Anyway. The battle between competing in the cloud security market. Orca is seeking a ban on the sale of products that it claims infringes its patents, which it alleges were copied by Wiz. I don't know. I don't know if we made straight up comment on Wiz versus Orca, but they do exactly the same thing. Like, essentially, they create a graph infrastructure of your cloud via API, display it to you in a beautiful format and very simple, and allow you to query and find vulnerabilities and paths. And that they are nearly, from what I've heard, identical things. And Orca has in the past had a history of, I don't know, I'm a hot take, and I'm just coming off the back of a hot take, so I think maybe that's my brain is going. Orca has done some fairly inflammatory YouTube videos creating head-to-heads against Prisma Cloud for one, where like it's super biased, and I think Prisma Cloud's trying to sue them over that. Like, it's crazy. And I would actually kind of say, like, it feels like Wiz is winning the Wiz versus Orca battle, so it seems funny that Orca is now suing Wiz, right?
Yeah. According to the lawsuit, Wiz was birthed from the very beginning as a counterfeit copy of Orca's ideas.
It's amazing,
pretty intense language right there. So apparently, if you look at the lawsuit, Orca filed for a patent, I believe, in 2020, and then Wiz filed for a patent that had overlap in 2021. Like, pretty close, right?
Yeah.
And I always just wonder, the patent office of the US was originally for good purpose, because you didn't have the internet, so you needed something to make sure that, I didn't just go to the other side of the US and create the same carbon copy and take your idea, right? Now I can just try to shove through as broad of a patent as possible that's going to get accepted. And then if you come in and get like 30% of that, now there's the patent war, right? You got to think that all these cloud companies have filed for patents that overlap with each other. And it really is just like, who has the most patents? If you sue me, I'm going to sue you because you overlap my patent over here and I overlap your patent here. Right?
Yeah.
That being said, I have no clue about the specifics.
No.
So I can't really comment. I just thought it was crazy. I mean, even if it's like a percentage of sales, like this would be a huge win for Orca if they could prove that Wiz did rip them off. It's just pretty hard to do in today's tech space.
I mean, regardless, I think Wiz is brought some potentially negative press to Wiz. So I think they probably calculated it and went, you know what, if we say this, hence I was talking about they've done some inflammatory statements, like very competitive things in the past. It seems like up their street in terms of marketing.
It's cutthroat industry. I have no clue. All I'm saying, let's say they do extremely competitive things, but then Wiz actually does rip off and take it, then that is going to be the battle between two behemoths over the next couple of years that we're going to be talking about it on this show for a while.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it and pretty happy that we're on the sidelines.
Yeah. If we do uncover any tidbits of information in the future, we will let you know. Yes. As long as Orca doesn't sue us if it's bad news.
Okay. All right. Good one.
On to WormGPT.
It was only a matter of time before somebody takes generative AI and creates a tool that allows you to attack with it, as opposed to I guess coddled and dialed down ChatGPT, which you can never it would never allow you to do anything nasty. And I think I read in here it was talking about how it was like a clone of the open source GPT-J language model developed by Eleuther AI, and they've created one that allows you essentially to. Now, I think it would be pretty fun to take this and make a tool time of it, but I don't know how we could do this without it being super dodgy.
Well, we do have a Raspberry Pi behind me, and we could try to figure out how to hack that one.
Do you still have access to your Raspberry Pi, seeing as you seem to have lost all access to anything?
Yes, I still do. Okay. We could do a tool time with that. We could also set up a couple of honeypots. There's some options. I could set up a couple of very, very weak Terraform modules in different clouds, and you can see if you can exploit it using WormGPT.
Okay, that sounds
like
fun.
We'll run checkoff and fix it after.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, it's like next generation Metasploit. It's like now you've got AI generating potential ways of attack in a more intelligent way, as opposed to just going through formulaic plugins and trying to remember everything that Metasploit does. Very cool. Very cool.
It is.
If anybody knows, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that you also have to know what you want to type in. So there's the prompt engineering aspect of, that whole write a Python malware that grabs computer's username, external IP address, Google Chrome cookies, zip everything, and send it to the Discord webhook. You have to know how to structure all that too, right?
Very true.
Or if you get one thing wrong, does it kind of correct you? I'm curious to test this out now.
Excellent. Well, let's take a look at it on the side. We're not promising a tool time, but there's a firm maybe in there.
Firm maybe. All right, on to a very hot topic over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. This is a question I have, and that is, Foster, why did you close SourceRel?
Listen, I just don't like any of y'all, so you don't have access to it anymore. No, just kidding.
Shut the door.
Shut the door. So working at Red Hat, I had no clue. Found out about this decision that was being made. I think there have been some interesting takes. I know Jeff Gerling is very anti this gatekeeping of the packages built with RHEL. A couple of years ago, I think there's been a couple changes last year just to set the roadmap. CentOS got deprecated. So there's no like CentOS 7 or 8. It became CentOS Stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is upstream of RHEL. And there's a couple reasons for that. There's actually a security reason, which is if you're maintaining CentOS 7, 8, and you're keeping all of those, even if RHEL is built off that, the security advisory needs to match up. So either they have to go hand in hand, or if CentOS 7 is ahead and RHEL is behind, you need to make sure that people know that. So when they're using open source, you can say like, there is no scanning on this. You are using this at your own risk. You're vulnerable to all these issues. It's basically a beta program, right? Yep. And so by building CentOS Stream out, one of the thoughts is like, hey, you can use this. It's not supported. You can wait for a more stable version and let the security issues filter down. That was one of the internal. I'm not sure if that was like marketed everywhere, but that was one of the ideas. Engineering effort was saved. The amount of contributions were not necessarily living up to the amount of engineering effort that it took to maintain upstream. So it's always a tough subject in open source communities where people are contributing. And if their contribution isn't taken in, it's like, oh, you're exploiting me. I shouldn't have done this, or it's not truly open source. Realistically, you have a reason to turn away open source contributions for any number of reasons, right? Like if I go and I patch a CentOS security vulnerability, actually this just happened. There's a security vulnerability. It was a medium one that was patched from Alma and pushed to CentOS upstream. Now it was kind of turned away, basically saying like RHEL downstream is taking priority. I forget what the exact term was, but it got a lot of legroom, or people were running with it. And if I'm patching a medium vulnerability and maybe we're doing development in the background, it might not actually be worth it to patch that vulnerability. It might be more worth it to wait until the next release or to figure out, like based off of the sprint, what's going on. So, you found it. The proper way to do this is just to report it to the security advisory board and say, here's the vulnerability that you've missed. And then let them create the issue if they want it fixed, right? Anyways, back to the original drama as I went off on a tangent. All the CentOS packages, so the upstream built packages, are being put behind basically a subscription model. So the code, the main code for CentOS is public, but a lot of the packages associated with it are behind a subscription model. So if you have a build and you're building off of that, you send your email, you get like 16 licenses. And a lot of people, that was never a gate that people had to go through before, right? So SUSE Linux doesn't have that. Oracle's operating system that is downstream of RHEL 2 doesn't have it, right? That's a fork. So it created a whole hoopla, and rightfully so. I can't understand it. People have to rebuild their pipelines. Jeff Gerling had a hot take about the licensing of it, because I believe it's a GPL license. And if, let's say, you don't submit the email, you get kicked off for any reason, then technically it's not open source. That was the fight. Or like if you stop people from using it because the email gets exploited, then, well, it's not actually open source code, because even though the code is, it's not accessible to everybody, kind of thing. Yeah. The legal fireback for that would be, well, if you get kicked off GitHub because you slander a bunch of people and you can't access the code, does that mean it's not open source? It's like, no, it's publicly available. You can get it through other means. You can get a new email. You can do different things in order to get it. But just because we kick you off or we limit your subscriptions because you're being a menace doesn't mean it's not open source. I think the biggest issue is the centralization of it all, of like, you don't know when you're going to have access and when you're not going to have access, right? Yeah. Or if the subscription amount's going to change, which I think is a fair issue. Anyways, last thing I know is, Oracle and SUSE have to fire back because they need all the different marketing ways to exploit this change. Of course. And so they did. And so Oracle decided to say, let's keep Linux open and free. We can't afford not to, from Oracle.
And the next one was SUSE.
Yeah.
Preserves choice in enterprise Linux by forking RHEL with a 10 million plus investment. I can't imagine, with why is this weird line going across it, but I can't imagine you would not have a hot take on this too.
Why? I mean, just why buy SUSE Linux Enterprise then?
Yeah.
Just buy the downstream fork from SUSE of RHEL.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
It's pretty hard to say that you have the best enterprise Linux while also taking somebody else's enterprise Linux and forking it, chucking 10 engineers that say they're going to support it for 4 years. I don't know. To me, this just reeks of, I want to jump on the Red Hat train. But I mean, the new CEO is an ex-Red Hatter.
Well, I don't know. Is that good or bad? It's weird.
Who knows?
That's what it is. Yeah. Nice.
Maybe he was brought in just to bring in a new fork of RHEL and then make that.
That was probably it. Yeah. All right. I didn't think that would touch such a nerve.
Yeah, long-winded way, but very interesting topic. Stay tuned for more. There's a new Twitter thread every day. So
yeah.
If you see anything, leave it in the comments. I will try to reply to it when I can.
Cool. All right, let's follow some money.
Let's spend some money.
All right, TechCrunch. A little disappointed that I couldn't read the whole thing in this one, but AVC's explained why there's good reason to be optimistic about cybersecurity. Kicking off, speaking with interesting Alex Dahl. Alex Dahl is the one. That's the one we could read. I didn't realize this, not being biased, but Barak Schuster, there's my ex-manager and founder of Bridge Crew from Battery Ventures in there, and a bunch of other venture capital luminaries. So funding for, I don't know, I wouldn't say that funding for cybersecurity startups is flatlined. That seems like an exaggeration, like just out of the box. But where did you had a particular question you liked in here?
Yeah, there are two things. The reason I put this article in was just as a quick article to point out that security startups saw $2.7 billion in funding in the first quarter of the year, a 58% drop from the $6.5 billion recorded in Q1 2022.
Yeah.
And just 150 deals are announced in Q1, the lowest total in years, a 45% drop from earlier. So, yeah, flatlined is a little bit dramatic, but a significant drop is probably the words I'd use.
Yeah, it was overinflated. Maybe we could even just call it a correction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other funny point is they talked about market trends and then cybersecurity's growing diversity problem. And I found it interesting that they said growing diversity problem, and then the first CEO talks about all the new diverse hires and people that they're seeing and all that stuff. Like, whenever you say growing, I always think you have to put it in context. It's like, what was it 10 years ago? Because I want to say that there were a lot less diverse people in cybersecurity 10 years ago versus now. So I just always find that sort of language to throw me off. But nobody even wanted to touch if you're able to read the article, nobody really wanted to touch the question. I just found that an article about VCs and funding is a weird mashup of questions. So yeah, I like this show. Though. We just mix everything together.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to be a member exclusive to read the whole thing, unfortunately. So, but you get congratulations to Alex Dahl for being first on the list. Somehow and getting his opinion in there for us to pick apart. All right, an actual investment.
And yeah, an actual investment news. Savvy raises $30 million for software as a service cybersecurity platform focusing on human error.
That's the most popular error.
It is. And it's pretty neat. Something that ties into your Chrome browser or your extension. Let's say you're on a website and it asks you for information to be input. Well, that cybersecurity thing will flag you and say, no, like, let's make sure we clear this. Let's set the Chrome settings to these things. Let's make sure that you're not inputting this information into this web page. For example, it will highlight these things and stop them from happening. I wonder how heavy that is, but pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, certainly worthy of investment if it works. Do you think people will? How deployable or operationalizable is it? But
I mean, organizations already are taking control of browsers and different things, especially with remote work. And so it just makes sense. The next step is, okay, well, you're using a browser. You might as well just say you can only do these things. And if you're on a web page that looks sketchy, we're at least going to stop you from inputting certain information. One of the examples they give is having a worker go into ChatGPT, and when it logs in, it deletes any cached information or things saved in the keyboard so that we can't copy and paste, and ChatGPT doesn't get information that might have been copied over from maybe a drive or a OneNote or something like that.
That's actually, yeah. That's like recent, that very similar thing happened on iPhones recently, where there's a huge list of apps that would auto scrape your clipboard without being told. And now anytime you go into and switch contexts in iPhone, it says this wants to copy from your clipboard. Like, it tells you that, but the operating system didn't used to do that. And all sorts of apps were scraping your clipboard.
Oh, that's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're just because if you use LastPass and you cut something and you paste it into a website, and then you go use another website, another app, that app is just grabbing whatever you had there, just because they could.
Scary.
I'm not saying TikTok. Definitely TikTok.
Yeah, or Facebook or something like that. All right, the last one we have is not a big spender, but definitely a gut punch to the big spenders.
12 easy ways. I like that. To fail. I only just clocked the word easy in there, to fail a cybersecurity startup. And there's some good ones, right? Not understanding the difference between building a product and building a company. Not all surprised that's number one.
No.
But
I mean, the absence of a viable business model is down there. Looking for consultants to craft the go-to-market strategy.
Oh, no. That's where we got to go. I know, skip to the end. This is where and other reasons, right? There were great reasons on the top, but when you get into other reasons, it got hilarious. Like trying to be yet another single pane of glass.
Oh man,
how many single panes of glasses can we have? Features in search of a product. Planning for the most positive scenario. Where's the one that you
my
had?
favorite is the one at the bottom. The inability to distinguish between selling to investors and selling to customers.
Oh my God. Yes.
KO.
Yeah. That's absolutely, yes. The ones at the bottom, for some reason, heavily resonated with both of us. I feel like we've experienced them, having worked for startups, and went, nope.
Yeah, who wants this?
Yeah.
Hey, at least you got 50 mil.
Yeah. Okay. Go check that out. Once again, links are below, and that's a must read. That's just for the fun of it.
And now on to tool time, where we're going to look at bill of materials for Kubernetes. Let's do it.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Yes. So we talked about this 2 weeks ago when I think it was KSOC and Trivy added Kubernetes bill of materials Trivy added it to their CLI, and KSOC came out with a KBOMs CLI. And so we figured we'd put them up to a head-to-head match, see what the use case is. We're going to point them at the same Kubernetes cluster. The same app is running. Steve is trusting me with his kubeconfig file.
Well, it's a Civo one. Who cares? It's going to be destroyed soon anyway.
Yeah, I'll let Steve take the reins first. Yeah, I'll let you take the reins first.
All right, I'll go first. I've got, so there's KSOC releases the Kubernetes bill of materials standard almost immediately afterwards. I don't know what the timing was on this. Does it say May 9th? And then June 29th, introducing the KBOM as if, wait, hold on. Didn't you just do this? I don't have the link here, but there was a great, actually, I probably do have the link. There was a good comment on the GitHub for Aqua. I made to paste it over top in the discussions, which was, why didn't you just use the existing KBOM? And it links directly to KSOC's KBOM.
Yeah.
And there's a few in here, like one of the main responses was talking about Cyclone DX format as opposed to a proprietary format, et cetera, of which you have seen in your, well, we'll get to it, but the Cyclone DX is in both, nevertheless. So we're like, what's the difference? Does it matter? Does it produce any useful information, et cetera, et cetera? We had to try it. So I was assigned Trivy, and I got to tell you, it was really hard to figure it out. Like if you just go to Aqua's website and search KBOM, the article comes up, but not how to do it. I just typed in Trivy -H, thinking, will there be something that indicates how to do it? No, and then I thought, oh, well, it must be the experimental, because they said it was experimental Kubernetes. So I took Kubernetes -H, and again, a lot of options. I even grepped for bomb to find just the word KBOM somewhere. Nope. I thought maybe it was a report type, couldn't figure it out. And in the end, I did find it. And it was in the newest version of their help, believe it or not. I'm an idiot. And that's essentially because they have, like, there's a new version came out, Trivy Kubernetes cluster -S format CycloneDX. That's what you do to generate the KBOM, or under their own description. So obviously did this. I'm already pointing at the CVO cluster, and it was pretty quick. Actually, it's ugly like that, so I piped it to JQ. Pretty colors, and I didn't know what to expect. I mean, maybe before we do this, I should just do a CTL, like get pod -A or something, right? Or I should do a -all or something. But this is just a CVO cluster. We stuck sock shop in it. I didn't know if it was going to do everything or what.
Yeah, you
and
didn't know it was gonna pop out.
No, I didn't. And it's really short, and it is just like kube system. It's just, there's a lot of faff in here, a lot of, yeah, we did it, and a lot of constant Aqua Trivy architecture, Aqua Trivy host name. Like, all of the tags for all the values are all a little self-congratulatory. Like, I don't know, I guess because it generated it, so it created the name. Worker Linux. So it's information about the nodes, but there's no applications. Like, none of the application stuff is here.
Interesting.
It's just core. Metric server was there, maybe because it wasn't started, but Alpine Linux. Like, it's not that long. Let me keep going. It's like, I'm going to get to the bottom, and you're going to be like, core components, Alpine Linux, and a lot of dependencies, which is pretty cool, but that's done. No vulnerabilities.
Yeah, well, the bottoms normally show vulnerabilities, right? It's more of a collection of all the resources.
Well, yeah, except there was a vulnerability section. So I thought, oh, okay, cool. But there's none there. So this is my at a glance, was, how useful is this? Can I get this information anyway? Albeit not in a CycloneDX format, but it's a way of saying, this is a CycloneDX bill of materials for what? For the basics of my core Kubernetes infrastructure, like kubelet, server, Kubernetes version, and that's it. That's all it seems to do at the moment. And I didn't know if I expected it to do more. I kind of thought it would really pick apart everything that was running, and almost maybe even generate vulnerabilities, because I'm running Trivy. I thought maybe it would, if it could, scan running container images, say, here's a huge state of play in a much larger, prolific format. And I didn't go beyond just the cluster version. The reason I did that was just because when I came in here and I was looking at how to do the bomb, this is the thing I finally found on how to do it. It just said cut and paste and do that. So okay, there's only one little line.
Oh my!
So I'm gonna run it and see what I got, and that's what I got. Is that, what do you think? Like, is that what does yours look like?
Oh, you have to see. I mean, it's a head-to-head matchup. Let's see who wins. I'll show you.
Right. Get me.
You show me yours. I'll show you mine.
Yeah, you get me out of here and show me what the KSOC one looks like and how to generate it.
All right. Yes. Let's do my entire screen. So for the KSOC, you can install it using Brew. So it was just a on the GitHub account. It's just a brew install. And then I think there's like a couple slashes, but got it done pretty fast. Let me bring my stuff in here.
I suppose, yeah, that's the advantage. Trivy, I mean, I already had Trivy. I just had to upgrade it to get the latest version. By the way, you do have to get the latest version for this option to be there.
Okay. So here we are in the sock shop repo. And it's as simple as KBOM, Kubernetes bill of materials. There it is, completion, generate, help, schema, version. If I do a KBOM generate, and then I do help, it will give me the format. So the default format is JSON. You can do it in YAML, cyclone.dx JSON, and cyclone.dx XML. So there goes that. You should go post on that little GitHub issue to say, okay, well, why not now? Anyways, so let's do JSON first. This one takes a lot longer than yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it takes about 15 seconds. I want to say, first time I ran this, it runs out of space in my terminal. My terminal only keeps like, I think 1,000 lines. And if I scroll all the way up, it's gone. So it's massive. Wow. There's a ton. Ingress rules, you know, everything. So I don't want to showcase it all. So what I did was I, you know, put it into a file, obviously, like most people do. And if I go to the top, this is what I get: an ID for BOM, the BOM format, the version, what time it was generated, the vendor, the name, build time to cluster, C9K BOM. I don't know the location, or the region or zone, but I do know the node counts. I know that the host name has, like, I get all this stuff: CPU, memory, pods, ephemeral storage, labels, annotations that are associated with the cluster, operating system image, like all of this information, annotations, and then I have components. So the images: Rancher, mirrored metric server, Weaveworks. So basically full name, version, and then digest the hash, right? And to me, this is awesome for like a Git diff. Imagine you're running this against your cluster just once a day, see what changes. And then you have a log to say, okay, I see nothing's changing in the cluster. Nobody's changing policies. Nobody's changing service accounts. Just the developer screwing with their container and changing the hash. It's like, okay, there's just a new app getting uploaded. And then all of a sudden, you know, something changes in the name or a service account gets added. Then you're going to get notified right away. It's like, where'd the service account come from? Resource endpoints, resource events. Like, this thing has everything: resource namespaces, resource nodes, pods.
Wow. Right? So that's what I expected. I think this is what I was expecting.
Yeah, all your service accounts. So to me, this is a more full output.
Yeah. I mean, a more full output. It is a full output as opposed to the bare minimum of your. I mean, we put sock shop in there, and that was kind of a waste of time. And I realized, because it doesn't actually care.
Well, yeah, mine shows it. So it shows the service accounts. It does show the apps. It shows the. I think basically what this is doing is it's going through all of the APIs of Kubernetes and just pulling that basic, like the first couple resources that are there. So you see, if you get it in YAML, like this is what you're seeing. You know, storage, kind. And so all it's doing is it's just going into the Kubernetes API, just pinging for all that information. Right. And let's try this one. Yeah. So I was contemplating what the use case for a tool like this was. And that's what I came up with is, you, as part of a CD or a repo, you just sit there and you have a process that just checks it, pulls this file and does it once a day, twice a day, whatever it is, and submits it as a pull request. And so when you're signing out at the end of the day, you're just going and saying, okay, what changed? Okay, nothing important. Next one. Go to the next day. Right? Yeah. Or, hey, we just had 3 service accounts. And so you're leaving for the day, like, hey, Paul, like, what'd you do today? Why is this service account showing up? Right? And it's auditable, so you can always go back. It's time-stamped. There's specific number associated with it. So you can just go back in time and figure out exactly when the change was made. right?
Yep. Yeah, I kind of like it. I think it would be fun to export, getify it. A little textual snapshot in time.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. I thought while you were doing that, I thought, oh, maybe I've done something wrong because of the documentation. Because Trivy does have like scan elements of the cluster where you type cluster. Instead of typing cluster, you can type pod. Or you can just type all, and it does all, right? So in the background while you're doing this, I ran it with pod, and it successfully produced a Cyclone DX that had nothing in it. And then I ran it with all, and it threw an error saying resource kind service not supported. So it went fatal. So it's in experimental mode, but I would have thought, yes, maybe the cluster would have done the bare bones, but all should have done what yours did. So anybody from Trivy's watching, that was my, who reads the documentation users.
You do.
Thought.
You read the documentation, and
I did.
Hard to figure it out. What's crazy is
wasn't much there.
I didn't read the documentation, and it was super easy. So
yeah, there you go. All right, ding, ding, you win. KSOC, you've won.
KSOC wins this round.
Yeah, absolutely. Damn. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the end of our show?
That is, yes. Again, all the links in the description. We'll be back in 2 weeks looking for our next tool time. So if you have any recommendations, anything you want to see, we are contemplating for the next season of C9K that we go through the CNCF landscape security map. Do an update. So if you want to see that, give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments. Steve, until then, anything people have to look forward to from you?
Absolutely nothing. I'm just kidding. I was on the application security podcast that Chris Romeo runs, and it'll be the next one being released. So Google Chris Romeo application security and listen to me tell him to his face that static analysis sucks.
Oh, well, yeah, I kind of want to see that. All right. Until then, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time on Friday. That's Steve Jaguar. I'm Mike Foster. Thanks for joining. Have a good weekend.